There has been an increase in bird crashes among Russian occupational forces. In one day alone, they lost 2 Su-25 attack aircraft and 4 Kar-52 attack helicopters. Such losses are caused by increased activity of Russian troops, caused by an attempt to imitate an offensive, as well as a lack of artillery. The Russian command has not abandoned the use of aviation as a compensator for artillery in a number of directions. As a result, there is an increase in losses in expensive and more deficit equipment, such as the Kar-52 and gradually the Su-25 as well in the Russian army. While the enemy aircraft is slowly moving towards a deficit state, and the artillery is already there, the Russian command sends the gunners to the infantry. We've already seen sailors in the tank forces, so this is nothing new. This is roughly how the situation in the Russian troops looks now, which even turns into scandals. For example, it became known that the 640th and 641st Artillery Divisions, trained on D-30 howitzers, were sent to the infantry regiment of the 1st Army Corps. And all because the occupiers themselves have an acute shortage not only of artillery, but also of ammunition for it. But the story itself is much more interesting. You delve into the artillery component in the form of a 122mm D-30 howitzer. The fact is that these howitzers are the most numerous in storage of the Russian army. Officially there are over 4,500 pieces of these howitzers. Then what is the problem? If Russians have so many D-30 howitzers in storage, which are truly becoming the main artillery of Russian forces lately, then why are they taking these weapons out of storage in Crimea? Why were they exported from the artillery base weapons arsenal in Belarus? The fact is that most of the D-30s in storage in Russia were in storage in conditions that are very difficult to call satisfactory, and as of today they are unsuitable for use. Some of them require repairs, sometimes deep and prolonged. At present Russia is collecting combat-ready D-30s from wherever it can for shipment to the war zone, but even this does not help it to compensate for losses and staff its artillery battalions. But there is another very interesting aspect to this story. This interesting aspect is the availability of ammunition for D-30, which is now proportionally insufficient for full 24/7 fire. And not enough because they simply do not exist, it's logical. Actually on the 11th month of the war the enemy had a problem with supplying the most mass artillery of advanced units, as well as with supplying this artillery with shells. Therefore, what is surprising about enemy artillerymen becoming cannon fodder themselves? And now it's official. Yesterday Ukrainian fighters came out of Soledar. Gone from the positions that used to be Soledar. Since the city no longer exists. Bakhmut is now in roughly a similar condition. Mariinka and Vuhledar are also ruins. Russia is bringing death and destruction, as always. Just like a big pus pile sprawling over young grass. However, it is more correct to say Afu withdrew to more advantageous positions. For there was nothing left to hold in Soledar. Of course, the occupants will try to make a mega victory out of this small town of 12 kilometers, but we remember Kherson, we remember Kiev, we remember the Kharkiv region.